The World of Tim Frazer by Francis Durbridge, read by Anthony Head. As I cruised up the M1 at around 80, I started brooding over Harry Denston again. It was over 12 years since we'd first met as engineering undergraduates at Birmingham University, rushing out at the end of lectures to the nearest pub, where Harry drank single or double whiskies, according to the state of his finances at the time. I was always content with beer. Harry's happy-go-lucky nature was not best suited to student life, and I was not surprised to hear him announce one evening that he was joining the RAF, where he hoped to find a greater level of excitement. His promotion was rapid, and I was a little surprised about 1 year later to bump into him by chance in Regent Street. He was wearing plain clothes, surprising, given Harry was the type who enjoyed wearing a uniform at any given opportunity. We repaired to a Victorian pub behind Oxford Circus, where he insisted on standing me a few drinks. 10 minutes into our conversation, he revealed he was no longer in the service, owing to what he called a misunderstanding over the mess accounts. I related my news that I'd just inherited the family's small engineering works in North London, following the death of an elderly cousin, and before the pub had closed, Harry had persuaded me to take him into partnership. He was supposed to put in £1,000, which never materialised, but he did land us orders for all sorts of novelty lines that turned a good profit from as far afield as West Germany. After 18 months, we doubled our staff and floor space, but I still had my qualms about Harry. It was as if he was playing the part of a business executive, with his generous expense account and company Hillman minks, giving everyone the impression that he was the boss of the concern. He even began a liaison with Helen Baker, the West End actress, who was on the rebound from a divorce. He never seemed happy unless he was living beyond his income. At the end of our 3rd year together, the company accountant showed me a dozen cheques for large amounts on which my signature had been forged. Very well, as it turned out. They totalled £4,000, and by the end of that month we were facing bankruptcy. Harry claimed he needed the money for what he called a private deal. A ticklish job I'm putting through for a friend of mine, as he put it. Nevertheless, our creditors gathered. 2 of our company cheques had been dishonoured, yet the day after our liquidation was announced, Harry, who now regularly absented himself from the office, sent me a note scrawled on a sheet of blue notepaper. It read, "Dear Tim, our troubles are over. Meet me at the 3 Bells, Henton, tomorrow afternoon. We'll explain everything then." I left the M1 at Coventry and headed for the northeast coast, where, according to the news on my car radio, a Russian ship had foundered the previous night with the loss of 2 crew. As I parked my car in the courtyard behind the hotel and got out, the wind nearly lifted me off my feet. What was Harry doing here? Like most Londoners, I knew little about the north of England, and was sure Harry knew even less. The saloon bar was deserted, except for the landlord, who introduced himself as Norman Gibson. "I'm looking for a friend of mine who's staying here. Harry Denston?" Norman looked bewildered. "There's no one of that name on my register, sir." "Well, that's odd. A friend of mine wrote to me asking me to meet him here, and I've driven over 200 miles to keep the appointment." "The best thing to do is to have a drink while you're waiting, sir," the landlord said. I agreed. To hell with Harry Denston, I thought, and decided to book myself in for a couple of nights, as the weather was so foul. "You seem to have been having a bit of excitement round here," I said to Gibson, making conversation. "Ah, the Russian ship," he replied. "Shocking affair. In fact, we've got one of the blokes here now. He's in a pretty bad way." At that moment, a plump, pretty young blonde came into the bar, carrying a basin of water and a towel over her arm. "How is he, Madge?" Gibson asked. "Is the doctor still with him?" "Yes, but he seems to doubt whether he'll last the night."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?